This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast. We've got several more big storms on the horizon over the next several days. Meteorologist Al Roker.
This parade of storms this weekend, storms moving west to east because of the jet stream. We're going to have 4 winter storms over the next 9 days.
How about that? The first arrives late tomorrow with shovelable accumulations by Sunday. Adding insult to injury, New York State is dealing with a rock salt shortage. A massive mining operation in Mount Morris, which supplies much of the salt used in the Empire State, dealing with some supply chain problems right now. Elon Musk continues to be a big problem to big spenders in Washington, and that's a good thing, says White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
Making this government more efficient is one of those priorities and one of those promises that President Trump made.
Musk heads the Department of Government Efficiency, which is tasked with rooting out waste and abuse in D.C.
You have a president who just ran on a pledge to shrink the government, to look for waste. He brought in someone from the outside for a reason, because past pledges by presidents have gone nowhere in terms of changing the way Washington functions.
George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley. The Labor Department went public today with the January jobs report. For the 49th month in a row, employers added jobs to their payrolls last month. 143,000 jobs, in fact, for the month of January. The overall unemployment rate dipped to 4%. There are several challenges to President Trump's efforts to remake the federal government. Virginia Democrat Mark Warner, not a fan.
It does seem like there's a lot of chaos in Donald Trump's Washington.
Kristen Welker moderates NBC's Meet the Press program.
But in my conversations with Democrats, they acknowledge the courts cannot keep up with the pace and scope of what we are seeing coming from the White House, from President Trump, and from Elon Musk.
A judge in Boston on Thursday temporarily blocked Trump's plan to cut the size of the federal government by offering federal workers buyout offers. Reporter Naomi Rocco.
Federal civilian workers now have until Monday night to decide if they want to step down under President Donald Trump's deferred resignation offer.
The White House hopes the extension of that deadline will convince tens of thousands more workers to take the buyout offer. About 40,000 already have. The Trump administration is slashing beleaguered USAID by thousands of workers. That government agency will have fewer than 300 workers once the fiscal belt tightening is complete. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says USAID is getting back to its original intent.
The United States will be providing foreign aid, but it is going to be foreign aid that makes sense and is aligned with our national interests.
USAID is under fire for pushing LGBTQ policy in other countries. Lucas Tomlinson at Fox News has a rundown on some of those expenditures.
$1.9 million for Guatemalan transgender support, $15 million for condoms to the Taliban, $70,000 for DEI musical in Ireland, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru.
Victoria Coates with the Heritage Foundation.
Bear in mind, this was created by John Kennedy in the early 1960s as a Cold War tool to help, spread American values. But then it kind of drifted and became purposeless. And it's all of this grab bag of crazy woke left liberal agenda items.
USAID is being folded into the State Department. Its workforce is being reduced by 97% worldwide. New information today about the collision between an Army helicopter and a commuter jet in the skies over Washington last week. Critical safety features on the chopper were turned off at the time of the crash. Also, we're learning the soldiers aboard the chopper were wearing night vision goggles. The Black Hawk slammed into an American Airlines plane as it was attempting to land at Reagan National Airport. 67 souls died in the worst aviation disaster this country's seen in more than 20 years. The White House is appealing a judge's ruling that blocks the president's birthright citizenship ban. That judge in Seattle says children born in this country are citizens of this country, no matter the legal status of their parents.
We do not have a king. We have a president who must abide by the laws. And if they want to amend the Constitution, there is a process by which to do that.
Meantime, the Trump administration moving forward with plans to convert the U.S. naval facility at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, into a massive migrant detention camp.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is planning on visiting Guantanamo Bay today to assess the administration's efforts to convert the U.S. naval base into a large-scale detention center that can hold as many as 30,000 migrants. So far, 2 U.S. military flights with nearly 24 detainees with alleged ties to a notorious Venezuelan prison gang have been sent this week. The plan is to send flights on a daily basis. Stacey Lynn, Washington.
Other news this Friday afternoon, President Trump creating a new White House faith office. He will direct Attorney General Pam Bondi to eradicate anti-Christian bias within the federal government. The president says, and we're quoting here, he will move heaven and earth to defend the rights of Christians nationwide. Scientists are keeping a close eye on a recently discovered asteroid large enough to be called a city killer. Space consultant Bill Harwood.
I'm not worried particularly. It just means we need to pay attention to it. You know, this scale goes from 0 to 10, 0 meaning there's virtually no chance of an impact, 10 meaning a climate-destroying, world-destroying sort of impact. Never seen anything like that since the dinosaurs, obviously.
This asteroid ranks 3 on that 1 to 10 scale. Its next close encounter with Earth will happen in the year 2028. Still to come on the Noon Report, drone soccer, Ellen wins, and play therapy.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams, scanning the skies for some local lake snow and some blustery conditions this afternoon. Then an area-wide snow arrives over the weekend. Your forecast is up in 10.
All right, Kevin, we've got a lake snow warning in effect right now for Oswego County, New York. A foot of the white stuff possible there by tomorrow morning. In the snowbelts today, blowing and drifting snow is a big problem, causing whiteout conditions at times. More than half a foot of snow possible south and east of Lakes Erie and Ontario by Sunday morning. Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen edged out two-time winner Lamar Jackson last night for NFL MVP honors.
I'd like to acknowledge the other nominees, Jared, Joe, Saquon, Lamar, all had great seasons and all could be standing here today, and you guys would be deserving of it. So you guys are true stewards of the game. I look up to you guys. I admire you guys. I just look forward to sharing the gridiron in the future with you guys, too.
Allen is the third player in Bills history to win MVP. Running backs O.J. Simpson in 1975 won, and so did Thurman Thomas in 1991. The Philadelphia Eagles will be gunning for their second Super Bowl victory on Sunday when they tackle the Kansas City Chiefs at Superdome in New Orleans. Several Pennsylvania restaurants are hoping to cash in on the big game.
Super Bowl weekend, this is like the national holiday for Wings and a Prayer. Now that the Eagles are in it, we know we're going to have a great Sunday. We know we're going to have a great Super Bowl. Pre-order. Do not try to come in here at 5 o'clock saying I need this amount.
Yeah, early bird gets the worm, says Kurt Cummings. He runs Wings and a Prayer in Stroudsburg. Dave Butcher owns Cassis Pizza in Cresco, PA.
A lot of people still wait till the last minute. They're not deciding, but we are getting a lot of calls about our hours. Are we still open? We have a Super Bowl special.
Super Bowl Sunday, by the way, is second only to Thanksgiving Day for the most food consumption in a single day in America. A house fire has claimed the life of a 10-year-old boy in Batavia, New York. That fire started yesterday on the upper floor of an apartment building where 3 siblings were living. Lisa and Dennis Say live in the downstairs apartment.
We had a broomstick just running back and forth to their bedrooms, just hitting the ceiling as hard as I could to wake them up.
I could hear the kids come out the side window saying, "Can you help us? We need help. We need help." And I said, "Can you get to the door?" And he said, "I can't. The fire's in the way."
Firefighters rescued 2 of the children, a 4- and 12-year-old, through a second-story window. Both of those children are in critical condition.
I still can't believe this happened. I can't sleep. I'm like sick. Just don't leave your kids home alone. ever, no matter how old they are.
Yeah, that is the most awful thing about this tragedy. Those children, all three of them, had been left home alone. Their parents were not there. New York Governor Kathy Hochul weighing in on the death of Robert Brooks. Authorities say the Rochester man was killed by prison guards in December at the Marcy Correctional Facility in Oneida County.
This is a very complicated case. This is not one individual accused. This is multiple people. And you had to be able to establish the cause of death, and then you have to tie it to specific individuals. So it's a complicated situation, but this community and Mr. Brooks' family deserves to have this resolved as soon as possible.
So far, none of the prison guards involved in the fatal beating have been charged. Onondaga County DA Bill Fitzpatrick acting as special prosecutor in the case. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro signed a new law meant to curb the spread of bird flu. It allows residents to become certified poultry technicians after completing a training course. Bird flus run rampant throughout the country, leading to the slaughter of millions of egg-laying hens and causing egg prices to soar at the grocery store. Pennsylvania could soon have a new state park deep underground. Here's Family Life's Sarah Harnish.
The state budget is full of important and serious stuff, but in a $51 billion plan, there ought to be a little room for fun, right? So here it is. Governor Shapiro wants to expand the Lehigh Gorge State Park to include the popular Glen Anoco Falls Trail and create Pennsylvania's first underground state park at the incredible Laurel Caverns. If approved, the Sandstone Cave would be the Keystone State's 125th state park. Sarah Harnish, Family Life News.
Carefree kids are harder to come by in our ever-growing digitized society, and that's why the Rural Outreach Center in Aurora, New York is stressing stress-free playtime. Play therapist Maria Knickerbocker.
Kids are experiencing so much stuff that they need to have a safe place in order to process it. There's multiple stressors within the family. It allows a child to create their world with very few words.
Knickerbocker says there is tremendous benefit to just letting kids play. Theraplay is what she calls it. Drone soccer is all the rage at Watkins Glen Central School in New York Southern Tier. 6th grade science teacher Trish Irvay.
GST BOCES started a drone soccer league and was looking for teachers or staff who were interested in working with students to teach them how to build and program and fly drones through a sport. So it's learning about aviation and playing at the same time.
Drone soccer is a 5-on-5 sport where players pilot small caged drones in a high-speed aerial match. Technology teacher Melanie Chandler says it gives students a way to compete outside of traditional sports.
Getting the experience of being on a sports team, getting the experience of being teammates, working together, and additionally learning those skills, the technical skills.
The Watkins Glen drone soccer team will be taking part in a tournament this weekend. They'll have a chance to advance to state and national championships as well this spring. Employers can expect a lot of employees to call in sick Monday.
A new survey from Paycom collected data from over 6 million employees who requested sick days after the Super Bowl. It found that in 2024, there were 63% more sick day requests on the day after the game than on the average day last year. It also found over 90% of managers at U.S. companies approved those sick days for employees after the game. I'm Monica Nelson.
All of a sudden, I'm feeling a little under the weather. Thank you, Monica. Sports next. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
MVP, MVP, MVP. Good afternoon. I'm Randy Snedley. Bob, in a vote that surprised many, Josh Allen voted the MVP of the NFL. And the reason why many were caught off guard was because the same voters who vote for the MVP award also vote for the All-Pro teams. Lamar Jackson was voted first-team All-Pro quarterback, receiving 30 of the 50 first-place votes. Allen got 18. But in the MVP voting, Allen got 27 votes to Jackson's 23. So Allen becomes the first player in 21 seasons to win the MVP award without being selected first-team All-Pro, and he becomes the third Bills player to win the award. Offensive Player of the Year award went to Eagles running back Saquon Barkley, who rushed for over 2,000 yards, finishing 100 yards shy of Eric Dickerson's record. And, of course, Barkley going to be running on Sunday in Super Bowl 59 as the Eagles and Chiefs clash for the Lombardi Trophy. Action from last night saw the Mavs, T-Wolves, Nuggets, Lakers, Trailblazers, and Pacers win in the NBA. And on the ice, it was the Lightning, Caps, Utah, Golden Knights, Wild, Panthers, Avs, Maple Leafs, and Canucks. That is a look at sports.
Thank you, Randy, man. And still to come on the Noon Report, the Capital Connection crew. Classic crayon comeback. And Kev says the groundhog was right.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. According to church history, Thomas, the disciple best known for his doubting, first took the name of Christ to India, and he ushered in a rich and centuries-long history of Christ followers there. These so-called Thomas Christians, as they're known, have provided a faithful presence in that region, along with the missionaries and others who continue to bring the gospel and start churches in India. Perhaps best known, renowned missionary Amy Carmichael, noted for providing a sanctuary for women and girls in India who were seeking to escape slavery and prostitution. She was also instrumental in the outlaw of those practices in the nation. Now, Hindu authorities have spent centuries attempting to stamp out the flame of Christ that was ignited by the Apostle Thomas. In fact, their efforts continue to this day. Despite the work and the witness of faithful leaders, India remains a place of religious persecution, with anti-conversion laws, deadly elections, brutal treatment of Christians and non-Hindu minorities there. Nearly half of India's 28 states have anti-conversion laws, and there's been an intensification of Hindu nationalism, bringing mob violence in order to enforce these laws. In fact, according to the most recent Global Persecution Index, quote, India's anti-conversion laws are so broadly phrased as to outlaw even the most basic practices of religious life, like singing worship songs, gathering corporately, and benevolence. For the mobs, the laws give a veneer of legitimacy to their grievances and empower them to act with violence against innocent Christians, end quote. And yet, despite the terror and the persecution in India, God has his people in place there too, including Dr. Anantai Jebasingh, the recipient of the 2025 William Wilberforce Award. Every year, the Colson Center presents this award that was founded by the late Chuck Colson to a Christian leader who's made a lasting difference in the cultural setting God has placed him, demonstrating the same kind of courage as British abolitionist William Wilberforce, whose faithful work helped end slavery across the British Empire. Dr. Jebasingh was born in a southern city in India that was established by missionaries and known for education. As a youth, she accepted Christ after hearing from Christian missionaries. Her faith would soon find a mission of its own. It was when a small boy knocked on her door years later, begging for food. In addition to feeding the child, Dr. Jebasingh felt called by Christ to teach and love him as well. A week later, the boy returned with 25 other children who wanted to attend her school. Soon, she was teaching more than 100 children out of her home before eventually receiving permission to establish a school. This was the beginning of what is now known as the Friends of the Good Samaritans schools. Today, she manages a staff of over 150 in New Delhi, providing free education, nutrition, and medical care to more than 1,000 of India's most impoverished children. The Colson Center is proud to recognize Dr. Anantai Jebasingh with the 2025 William Wilberforce Award. She is a brilliant example of what it means for the church to be the church. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint. And for more resources like this one, visit us at breakpoint.org.
Thank you, John. Let's take things outside next. A very busy Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life weather forecast. Lake effect is the story this afternoon in areas east and southeast of Lake Ontario. Otherwise, just blustering cold, clouds, sunny breaks, and flurries. Then for tonight into tomorrow, lake snow with additional significant accumulations. Elsewhere and otherwise, just mostly cloudy. Low temps tonight teens, into the 20s and low 30s tomorrow. Widespread snow will arrive late tomorrow afternoon, continue tomorrow night. There'll be some freezing rain and sleet. Parts of Pennsylvania south of I high 80. High temperatures on Sunday ranging in the 20s and lower 30s.
All right, thank you, Kevin. It's Friday, folks. Congratulations, you made it the 7th of February. And this is the Noon Report on Family Life. And welcome back to another edition of Capital Connection. Fridays during the Noon Report, we give you direct connection to what's happening in Albany and Harrisburg with the experts on the issues at the state capitals. They are Jason McGuire with New York Families and Michael Geer at the Pennsylvania Family Institute. Well, Michael, I want to begin with you this week. Congratulations. You now have your first $50+ billion state budget. Never been that high before, but it is now. The Shapiro spending plan went public this week. I know he's pushing pot big time, Michael, and that's what you've been fighting here for several years. Want to know if Republican resistance in the state Senate will be enough this year.
Well, we certainly hope so. The Republicans have stood firm in the past sessions. We're hoping that they're going to be able to do so this time around as well. The evidence of the big lobbyists, the big marijuana lobbyists being at the Capitol is very significant. The issue really is whether the people of Pennsylvania, whether the citizens of Pennsylvania will awaken and communicate with their elected officials about the dangers that come with the legalization and commercialization of so-called recreational marijuana. It's a troubling issue and one that we're going to continue to fight here at the Pennsylvania Family Institute.
Well, Jason, Tish James making news again for all the wrong reasons. New York's Attorney General has told hospitals to ignore President Trump's ban on federal funding for sex change operations on minors. We're talking about kids here. She says this ban violates state law. Is there a jurisdictional issue here, or does the AG have a point?
Well, I think she's definitely going to find this one heading to court, because we're looking at federal funding, which she has no control over. And the Trump administration is warning these hospitals, all of which receive federal funding, that if they engage in these procedures and they go about mutilating children through these surgeries, they will not be receiving those federal funds. Now, the state may try to backfill that, but there's just only so many dollars to go around. I think the Attorney General is intentionally trying to muddy the waters for political purposes.
Yeah, one of the big efforts that's underway at the PA Family Institute this year, Michael, is to expose the rot that is Planned Parenthood. And you've uncovered some collusion here between that organization and the Reading School District. What's going on here, and why should our listeners be concerned?
Yeah, this report that was done by a good friend of ours at Pennsylvania Family Institute, Meg Brock, and who is a contributor to the Daily Caller, has found that Planned Parenthood signed an agreement with the Reading School District, partnering with them to provide sex education, but included in that is gender ideology, all kinds of after-school programs that promote the LGBTQ plus agenda, as they call it. They did things like getting young adults to come in there and paint naked transgender bodies, perform in what they called condom Olympics. I hate to even talk about this kind of stuff, but that's what Planned Parenthood wants to bring into the schools, and when a school district or a school board decides to partner with Planned Parenthood, that's what they get.
Yeah, and that's why we need Christians running for school board elections this year in Pennsylvania. So if you don't want that kind of stuff in your school, get involved, folks. Jason, Governor Hochul this week signed, I think it's called the SHIELD Act. It would protect doctors who prescribe out-of-state abortifacients. The state of Louisiana is suing New York here. Can you explain a little bit more what's going on?
Essentially, under this new law, what the governor is saying is that doctors who prescribe these abortion pills, especially out of state, will not have to put their name on the prescription any longer. It will be only the practice of the doctor, not the doctor's specific name. And that comes to bear in cases like the Louisiana case, where there was a doctor in New York who sent pills to Louisiana on behalf of a woman who gave the pills to the daughter, in this case, who suffered some medical complications. Now, bear in mind, in that case, the New York doctor never even spoke to the woman who took the pills. That is not safety. That is not concern. We're not caring for women in this. We're caring about political agendas.
Yeah, it seems like medical malpractice to me. Michael's talking about the sanctity of human life issue. I know a lot of pro-lifers have some concern concerns about Robert Kennedy Jr. as the next health secretary. It looks like that will become official next week. RFK adamantly pro-choice. How concerned should pro-lifers be with him being the guy that dictates health policy in this country?
Well, I think the concern is a real one. I think, though, because that concern has been raised already with this nomination, that there were assurances provided by RFK Jr. to senators who were questioning him about that issue, and he at least promised that he would not be promoting a pro-abortion agenda as the HHS secretary. So the thought that comes to mind, or the phrase that comes to my mind, is trust but verify. Continue the pressure, to continue to watch what's going on there, and to make sure that he follows through with that commitment that he made to some of the United States senators.
Gotcha. There's an interesting Siena poll out this week on Governor Hochul, Jason, still underwater with the voters. I think just a 39% favorability rating. Many of her policies, the policies that she laid out in her State of State speech, remain popular. So I got to ask you, why the disconnect? If the policies are popular, why is the governor so not popular? That survey goes on to say just 3 in 10 New Yorkers, if the election were today, just 3 in 10 New Yorkers would vote for Governor Hochul.
Yeah, I think you've got a number of things going on. One, I think you do have the affordability issue, that people are looking at their wallets and they're concerned. And even though the governor has used the word affordability, as we referenced just in the piece a minute ago, the word abortion is the one that seems to keep coming up to the actions she's taking. And so there is this discrepancy between her rhetoric and her record that I think voters recognize. And that seems to be the issue that is coming up in her race and may be problematic for her in 2026.
Yeah, Michael, I thought it was interesting. Donald Trump, one of the executive orders he's signing, would dismantle U.S. Education Department. He told the nominee for that department, Linda McMahon, to kind of work herself out of a job as best she can. He wants it at the state level. School choice is very big at the federal level. Back to the governor's speech on Tuesday. Did Governor Shapiro say anything at all about those lifeline scholarships or his appetite for school choice in this session?
Well, the governor is known to be somebody who wants to be president. We saw that in the election campaign last year in the presidential race when he was almost selected to be the vice presidential candidate, and he has made his desire for that to be known. And promoting school choice is not something that is very popular with the Democratic establishment. So he's been pretty tepid about it, and I don't know if we can expect him to be negotiating that issue in this legislative session, given his political ambitions going forward.
Is the bill, the Clinton outlet bill, still going to be reintroduced, or is it just wait and see?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, okay. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the pressure will still be maintained, and I didn't mean to sound so negative that it's not going to happen. I'm hopeful that it will, but we understand that the voice of the people needs to be heard in support of school choice. That's what we're seeing in Washington, and we need to see in Harrisburg.
And you think on a federal level, at least, if he's interested in president, that's a winning strategy, school choice. Jason, we'll end with you. This kind of an interesting story that came out this week. New York's Republican congressional delegation, I think there's 6 of them, says there's some tomfoolery going on here when it comes to fill in that 21st district congressional seat. That's Elise Stefanik's North Country congressional seat. She's moving on to the Trump administration. There is worry here that the U.S. Justice Department may have to get involved here if that seat is left vacant for months. What are Democrats doing here, and why is it so concerning to you?
Yeah, so a week ago, there was a secret meeting, and the House Speaker, Hakeem Jeffries, had actually spoken with Governor Kathy Hochul, and then a number of Democrats in the state Senate in particular were working on a plan to delay the election to replace Elise Stefanik until sometime this June, likely, when there would be many more Democratic voters likely to turn out helping them. Now, remember, the House is very narrowly divided. So this is really problematic because we often hear from the Democrats talking about democracy is under attack. We hear about disenfranchising voters, and now we will be leaving an entire swath of the state of New York without representation in Congress if this were to happen. Earlier this week, I was pleased to participate in a press conference with many Republican and conservative leaders speaking out against against this effort to essentially rig the election for the Democratic Party.
Yeah, and I think when Stefanik makes it official, she becomes a UN ambassador. Hochul has, 10 days to announce the election for that seat?
Under current law, she has 10 days to announce the election, and then it really has to happen within about 3 months.
Gotcha.
This would delay this to a lot longer time period.
All right. Tomfoolery in Albany. We're going to expose everything we can when it comes to that. And if folks have any question about any issue they heard on today's program, I know both of you would love to hear from our listeners. So much going on, Michael. Where can folks find out more about the Pennsylvania Family Institute?
PAFamily.org.
And stay informed on all the issues in New York. Jason McGuire, New York Families, where are you at?
NewYorkFamilies.org.
All right, we don't stand for tomfoolery around here. Thank you, guys. Capital Connection comes your way Fridays during the Noon Report. You can subscribe, listen to, and share this feature along with all our original podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or FamilyLife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. We're watching a storm system eastbound from the western United States. It's going to bring our area widespread snow and some ice Saturday night and some more lake effect as we head into Sunday. Lake effect is the story of this afternoon in areas east and southeast of Lake Ontario. Heavy at times, several more inches accumulating. Otherwise, and elsewhere across the area, just blustering cold, clouds, sunny breaks, and flurries. Temperatures this afternoon holding nearly steady. Then for tonight into tomorrow, lake snow with additional significant accumulations east of Lake Ontario and north of Oneida Lake. Elsewhere and otherwise, just mostly cloudy. Low temps tonight, teens. We're into the 20s and low 30s tomorrow. Widespread snow will arrive late tomorrow afternoon, continue tomorrow night. Taper on Sunday. There'll be some freezing rain and sleet. Parts of Pennsylvania south of I-80. High temperatures on Sunday ranging in the 20s and lower 30s.
All right, great work as always at the Weather Center. Thank you, Kevin. Finally at noon, get ready to color your world with a blast from the past. Family Life's Brian Query says several classic crayon colors are about to make a comeback.
For the first time in its 122-year history, Pennsylvania-based Crayola is reviving 8 beloved crayon colors that were previously retired. The collection, inspired by the company's iconic 1903 8-crayon box, features fan favorites like Dandelion, Blizzard Blue, and Raw Umber. Some shades are making their comeback after over a century in retirement. Crayola's chief marketing officer, Victoria Lozano, says the return celebrates creativity and childhood imagination. In addition to crayons, limited edition colored pencils and marker packs are also launching this year, with availability through 2025. So grab your coloring books and be on the lookout for these returning colors, because nostalgia never looked so vibrant. Brian Query, Family Life News.
All right, bringing back the lost art of coloring. Thank you, Brian. That's our world. The world we live in. Friday, February 7th. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.